what is some like really good advice that someone could apply as well? That's not like the general advice. Do you have any other like secret tips to success when it comes to searching for a job?
Yeah, yeah. So I did write a blog post about people who are in college for something like cybersecurity or computer science, and they want to move into the field. And what I think you're getting at is I tend to have three or four things that I recommend to people. The first is what we already covered, which is a home lab, and that's a pretty standard recommendation. Usually, if somebody's like, "Oh, I'm looking for a job," then somebody kind of on the more experienced end will be like, "Well, you have a home lab, right? You know, if you don't have a home lab, don't expect to get a job, at least in a technical cybersecurity role." I'm sure are pretty common, but for me, I like to mention are going to local conferences and local meetups and so forth. I touched on this before, but but my first consulting job, I got through going to B-Sides. I'm from the Pittsburgh area, so I went to B-Sides Pittsburgh, and they had a capture the flag competition. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to get anywhere in this capture the flag competition, but I want to join it because I want to see what it's all about. And that year was at this venue that had an abandoned school bus, and we were all in this abandoned school bus hacking away, and they had access point there, and it was a lot of fun, and I ended up getting to know other people in the industry, and I didn't do phenomenally well, but I think people noticed that I was there and that I was interested enough to be involved in the community, and also just going for a CTF and just trying it. That those are the things that kind of stand out. A lot of people are looking for that passion and that desire to just be involved and just get exposure to different experiences on the technical side of things. So through that, I was able to forge some relationships, and then as a result of that, we called it the hack bus. We had like this Slack channel, but I was just on there. I was just asking questions. I was going through my the old OSCE at the time, and so I was just on there. I was like, "Hey, can I have some tips?" Or I have these questions. Like, I don't know how this is working. I can't get this exploit to work. Those different things. And the guy was like, "Hey, you are asking really good questions. Do you want a job?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure, okay, yeah, let's talk about this." And so that was really cool. And I definitely recommend people do that, because those are the type of things that stand out. If you're asking questions, people notice. And if they're, you might think I always thought they were dumb questions that I was asking. I always thought I was like pestering people. But for some reason that just kind of, it shows where you are. It shows what you're working on. It shows what your projects are. Hey, if you're asking a question about Windows exploitation, people know what you're working on, and they know that you are exploring these different topics and the level of depth that you're at, and at times they might see potential. So I highly recommend people getting involved in like a local B-Sides conference. Many bigger cities have a B-Sides these days, but also a lot have other like weekly, monthly, bi-monthly meetups that the local cybersecurity community gets together and somebody presents on something. At a high level, what we're talking about is networking, and is really the big things. But these are some practical outworkings, because people will say, "Oh, well, you got a network." But this is what it looked like in my life, and what I typically recommend for other folks. Then the other thing is to get certified. Pursue something. Don't just sit where you are and expect to get hired somewhere and then have them develop you. Work on it now. And it doesn't have to be an OffSec cert. I know that's what I've targeted for a long time, but there's a lot of resources. There's like the hack the box certs that are a lot cheaper, but in some instances they're better, or at least as good as some of the other ones. And there's just a lot more resources. There's Try Hack Me. There's just the Hack the Box labs and all that kind of stuff, where you can just continually cut your teeth. And that's what people want to see, is like, is this person continuously learning? Are they continually going back to how they can improve their skill set, something new that they can learn? And those are the types of things that really stand out on resumes.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for explaining that. And yeah, local meetups is something I actually haven't done yet. And I was actually, I finally got into a position where I could get in some local meetups, and I'm in Alaska, and there's like not a lot up here. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I
very
understand.
unfortunate. So